You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needham. Hi gang, Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is Minessa Konecky. She is an advocate, not only for the disabled, but for women. She feels that we are more than what we feel and what we believe. But our episode is not only just about illness and empowerment. It's also about our emotions. It's about, well, it kind of turns into a wild romp of all sorts of things, including talking about 80s rock stars. So I hope you enjoy the show. This episode of the Better 2 podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. An afternoon at the pool changed Wes's life. When he saw Jen, he knew she was his always and forever. Most nights, Wes spent pursuing his dream of landing a record deal. With Jen looking up at him, he knew nothing would stop him. His dream was fast becoming a reality, until Mason Langford entered their world. While Wes was living his dream, he lost his heart. Now he wondered if he'd ever get her back. Available now, Love is Worth Waiting For by DM Needham at most booksellers. Hi, Minessa. How are you doing?
Hey, it's so good to see you. I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again. We actually met on Sharifa Harding's Roundtable Talk Show.
We did. And I remember I saw you and you started talking and I was like, oh my God, I love her. I barely knew anything about you, but I was like, oh my God, I love her. How do I connect with her afterwards?
And you want to know something? And I'm being honest here. It's like when I saw everybody's qualifications for that show that day, I was just kind of like, I don't belong here. It was like one of these things doesn't belong here. And I'm like, but I felt fine after I started talking and everything. But initially, and Sharifa is just a doll. And we've talked since then. So it's just like, it's weird how your perception will be like, oh, this is going to be bad. But it was actually really good. And I met people from it. So, and I'm doing it again. And you've done it again. And here we are.
Once you get on Sharifa's pod roundtable, you just want to keep going, right? It's It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of heart to go live. I haven't fully embraced going live. A couple of times I've tried, I've had audio issues. But eventually, hopefully
you'll get there. Baby steps. I find going live actually so much easier for me now. Like I have really bad social anxiety. I find that it takes less time for me and less work. So I can actually you do the live, you're done, you move on, and then you don't have to deal with it or worry about it. With video, I feel like there's editing and there's intros and outros. So I feel so intimidated by video. Lives are easy. Video, I will postpone, I will put off, I will procrastinate. I will, my head's hurting. Oh, you know what? The sun isn't high enough today. I can't do a video. It's like, the mood isn't in alignment.
See, I've done videos since the start and it hasn't bothered me, and maybe it's because of my background. But that being said, it's like the worst thing that happens is you put on your makeup and then somebody's like, oh, I can't do it. You're like, oh, okay. So, but you got to get in this whole frame of mind of, I have to do this, because when I was married, I didn't wear makeup really because he was legally blind. So it didn't matter what I looked like. He loved me for me and that was it. And that's the purest form of love you can have, I guess. But afterwards, it's kind of like, okay, now I have to get back to normal life.
So for me, it's interesting that you bring that up, that you put makeup in with the normal life. Cause I stopped wearing makeup a really long time ago. I don't wear any makeup at all. Because I hate the way it feels on my skin. There are times where I'm like, oh man, I really want to have lipstick, right? I'm like, I love the way that looks, or I love the way an eyeshadow looks, but I can literally feel it on my skin and I can't. But it's interesting that I'm curious because now your thought is that now that you're going live, you've got to wear makeup and things. No, I misunderstood. What?
When I go live,
when you go live. Oh, dude, you don't need to wear makeup on your lives.
In the real world, I don't wear makeup. I will be, and my friends are just like, you really should dress up. You're single. You should have your face on and everything. And I'm just kind of like, you either like me for who I am or you don't. But I'm 54 years old. So I have some bags and I have some wrinkles. That's why it's like, when I go live, I'm going to wear some makeup because otherwise I'm pretty pale. So, I don't want to be fish belly white on the camera and then going, Does she have features?
Is there a face there? I'm not sure.
It's just kind of moisturize me, Dr. Who reference there, but it's not that bad, but I'm pretty white. So it's like, being pale, it's just,
I dyed my hair blue for that reason. Nobody notices anything else. They're just, that's why I did it. It's like, no one notices anything else. So if you have enough weird things going on, people don't actually see that you have a face.
Well, that's a true point. The problem with me is I used to love dyeing my hair all sorts of colors, but I have a lovely thyroid condition.
Oh my, yep.
So my hair, besides being baby fine all my life, is now thinning. And to top it off, experiencing grief, which they don't tell you about, you lose hair.
Yes.
Nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that's one of the signs of grief. No. But yeah. So it's like, I can't really do anything outlandish. I went and got my hair cut a year ago, and this lady's like, oh, we're going to dye it a dark red. Okay. And I went to her specifically and I said, look, my hair is thinning. I need to do something with it. Okay. We'll make sure. She dyes this dark auburn red. It was pretty red. But then she's styling it and everything. She cuts it really short and she goes, oh, there's a bald spot. No shit. No. That's why I came to you.
Like, that's what I told you.
She's like, oh, well, we can use some hair chalk or something. I'm like, no.
Oh, dude.
I have never had a hair meltdown in my life.
You must have been so mad.
I went to my friends, and my other friend comes over, and she had never even met my other friend, and they're like, it looks good. I'm like, no. It was just, it was bad. It was bad.
Oh, and dude, I would have been furious. I'm not a fan of stylists that don't listen to you when you tell them what it is you're looking for. Once upon a time, years and years ago, I went to a stylist who was just really not listening to what I had to say. And it wasn't, it was really just, honestly, it was just hair color. I reached a point of time where I was like, it's just hair color, no big deal. But at the same time, it's like, you have to listen because you don't always know why someone is telling you like what they're telling you, like, because you were giving her the information she needed to be able to have you leave feeling amazing, but she didn't listen. And I think that that's such an important thing. It's just listening.
Well, and I think also why, most likely, a year and a half now, I was not even 6 months out from my husband dying.
Oh,
so wow. It's like, I'm trying to make myself look good. I have a publicist at this time, and I'm being told I'm going to be doing these things. So I need to make sure I look good. And here you've done this. So, and I was about to have pictures taken, and I made the pictures work so it doesn't look bad. Those are my promo pictures. But at the time, it was ridiculous for me to be upset by it. Mm-hmm. So, but, live and learn. Some people, that is a major crisis for all the time. So I get it. So we were talking a little bit before we got on camera because you have fibro.
I do.
And you have a flare, and we were talking about how sometimes you just have to stop and take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And where the conversation was going is that we were talking about the fact that if you stop and take care of yourself, society looks at you as being a deadbeat or lazy. And because we've had that ingrained in our heads, it kind of comes to a whole new meaning for us that I'm lazy. It's not and I had a conversation the other day with owning your feelings. Because in our language, we say, I'm angry, I'm lazy. We don't say, I feel. Mm-hmm. So we take ownership of these emotions, and they weigh us down even more. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think we feel, I think you really interesting. I love the idea that, words matter, right? And I am angry, I am lazy is more like of a judgment call. Like I am a lazy person, right? And so now you're sort of almost like, I'm putting this thing down that says, this is what I am lazy, I am angry. And you, by saying it that way, you almost trap yourself in a box. You trap yourself in the box of feeling that way. Absolutely.
And I think that's something that we need to, I think it's generational, and it still carries on today, because if someone is having financial difficulties or whatever, and they have to go on to public aid or welfare or whatever, they're deemed lazy. And that's not really the case. Especially now with the economy, we have people that are working 3 jobs that can't afford things, but you're deemed lazy if you're on food stamps.
It's absolutely, you know what, you're and like, this is something that is so close to my heart because I have so many of my people that I work with are people who are women with chronic illnesses. They are caregivers to, someone who is ill or mentally ill, or children, but they have a lot going on, like so many things going on. And it's often costs more for them to like put their kids in daycare than when they would earn from a job. So these are often people who cannot actually work a job because the systems that exist in the world right now prevent them from doing so. And they do the only things that they have been the only tools that they have been told are available for them. They take advantage of those tools, and immediately, like you said, now they receive that judgment, which is then they then internalize and feel like that, like, I am less than, I am taking from people, or I am lazy or awful, which only makes it harder for you to climb out of it. And I think that, like, over the last couple of years, working with the women that I worked with, I've found that, there is a astounding number of overwhelmingly qualified, brilliant, driven women out there who at this very moment feel like lazy sacks of bleep because, can I swear on this?
Yes, you can. Yes,
Great,
I heard you
lazy
swear.
they feel like absolute shit. They feel like the lowest of the low because they're not adhering to the thing that they were supposed to do. Like when you're a kid, you're told that this is sort of how you're supposed to grow up, what's supposed to happen. You grow up, you get a job, you have kids. There's just a way your life is quote unquote supposed to be. And if your life doesn't match that, then there's something wrong with you. You're off, you're lazy, you're messing it up for everybody else. And that is a really big problem. I think the problem really a lot is our approach right now, is that we really need to, as a people, which is why things like your shows are so important, is these are the conversations that we need to be having so that women especially realize that it's the programming. There's nothing wrong with us inherently. There is a structural belief system that we have been given that we're just accepting as true. And it's time for, I think we need to be given an alternative. We've never been given an alternative. Like, okay, either I do this job or I'm lazy. No one's ever given us a third option to say, okay, what is your third option that allows you to be successful, not lazy, and also not working this full-time job?
Well, and here's the thing. This isn't something that's new either, because in 1991, I had met somebody. He had 2 kids, and the 2 kids came to live with us, and they were 4 and 6. So one of them was not a school age, and that's fine. But it had to come to a point where, okay, I can go to work and I can make $200 a week and turn around and hand it to daycare,
Mm-hmm.
or I can choose to stay at home and be a mom. And here's the other caveat to this. And it was kind of one of those things. We had already started they weren't in daycare anymore, but they had gotten new kids on the block doll. So this is the time frame. They got new kid on block dolls, and they had Skipper and Courtney because they were all excited. It was Easter. And I walk by their room and I hear the little girl giggling. And I'm like, what's going on? And of course, the youngest one's going to rat her sister out easily. Not even a thought. It's like, what's going on? It was Michelle's idea. Okay, so what's going on? Michelle wanted the Barbies to have sex and take them to Naked Town. Excuse me? Excuse me? So of course, I'm like, take the little girl. Honey, you take her. I need to find out what this is all about. Well, somebody at daycare said that sex is when a man lays on top of a woman naked. Okay, well, that's not exactly how it is. And we're not going to go into detail because you're way too young. But, you shouldn't even be thinking about those things at this point. Naive, yes, but, so they didn't go back to daycare. And the cost, I'll wrap this little part up. The fact of the matter is, so I did this for 4 years. Only side job I had was as a disc jockey. So I was on a weekend jock. When I decided to go back into corporate America after I left him, and I'm going back, I went to college for a year, and I'm going back to corporate America, and I haven't had a corporate job in 5 years. And the big question they looked at was my resume, because I had this hole in it. Well, where have you been? What have you been doing? Why haven't you had a job? So I could explain it away that I was taking care of kids. And that was okay. But they still didn't look at me as a qualified candidate. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, you get an entry level position. It doesn't matter what you've done before. This is what you get.
Yeah.
And it's partially because you're a woman.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like you started at a deficit
Mhm.
because you're a woman. Actually, and I think for me, that's actually one of my biggest missions right now is that I I think a lot, almost all of us start this way. We start off believing that we are further back if because we're women, and God forbid you have a plus one, plus you're plus one if you're a person of color, plus one if you're LGBTQ, plus one, like there's all the chronic illness, like there's all these plus ones. Some of us have like so many plus ones, right? God forbid you have those. But the real issue here that really hurts me is the fact that we believe it. Like, so I'm curious, when you went back into the workforce at that time, how did you feel did you feel when they were asking you those questions, did you feel like it doesn't matter what I say, like I'm not going to be good enough? Did you feel like you weren't good enough? Or like, do you remember?
At that point, I had left my husband with $50 and I had given him my car and I was staying with a friend and her mom. So I don't think I really felt, I think I was just happy to have that job. And I have to be honest, I was on the other side so my corporate career, eventually I became a claims supervisor and that involved hiring people. And I remember my male boss telling me, well, you're going to have to be careful with people that have children because that's a problem. Because sometimes if they, looking at their work history, if you're looking at their work history and they have, you're contacting the other employer and they have a lot of absences, that's a problem. For me, near the end of my tenure at my career, because I had illness, I had taken care of my grandmothers for Katrina, so I missed time from there. My company said, oh, we're going to create, you can't be a supervisor anymore. We're going to create a position for you, which basically, and this is exactly how I felt about this said position that was going to be created. It was a way to get me out the door. They weren't going to acknowledge that I was sick. They were not going to acknowledge those things. We're going to create this position for you. Yeah, it was a BS. And I knew it in my gut. I knew it. And I was overstressed. I wanted to quit. I did not quit. Fate intervened. My husband shut a recliner on my foot. I had to have ankle surgery. And out of that job, I went. Because finally, my illness and the PTSD from that place caught up with me. And that's the thing. When you're in a toxic environment, you don't realize the stress it's putting on your body and the PTSD that takes place. Because everybody's like, oh, well, it's got to be a war. Sometimes your job can turn into a war.
Oh my God, you are so right. And I can't even say this enough. Like I have PTSD from my childhood. I've been through incredible amounts of trauma, and we've talked about that before. And I've also been in abusive work relationships. And I can tell you, as somebody who's been through both, the impact it has on your body is no different. It's not different at all in terms of one will kill you just as easily as the other one will kill you. And it doesn't matter that somebody doesn't have a gun pointed at your head. It's the same feeling that's there. And I think it's really hard for people. And I'm really glad you said that, because it really gives me the opportunity to say that, like, there are so many people who diminish their in work environments that are toxic, just like you're talking about. And they're having those feelings. Like, I know what you're talking about, that you're sick in addition to your chronic illness, you're sick all the time from the job itself. You start to swell up, you're tired, your sleep is not you're not feeling, you sleep, but you're not rested. You're always exhausted. And you can't take joy in things. Possibly food doesn't even have any flavor anymore because it's like, ugh, right? And a lot of people are like, well, I should feel lucky to just have a job, or I wasn't in a war, or they're not willing to recognize it as PTSD because of that misconception that, this is only something that you get if you've had like some major, major traumatic event in your life. Right. And the truth is that being abused at a workplace is a major traumatic event in your life.
Yeah.
And one of my friend Jenna says this, she's amazing. She's an MS advocate. And she taught me there's no comparison here. She has MS. I have chronic migraine. She's like, I really hate this, like, chronic illness competition. She's like, it doesn't have to be a competition. We can all suffer. It's great. And we can all heal, we can all heal together. And I think that's really important. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's something I think that a lot of people don't give themselves permission to believe, that they could actually be suffering from PTSD.
Well, and PTSD, like you said, I mean, I had childhood trauma. My childhood trauma is not the same as your childhood trauma, but we all experience things differently. And that's the thing. Like you said, it's not a competition. One of my employee that they put him in my unit so I would find dirt on him to fire him. So yeah, that's always, corporate America sucks. But anyway, I had pneumonia and I came back early. I came back a week early because they needed me back. So I'm still sick, but I come back and he comes in my cube and he's like, "You're not doing well, are you?" And I was there from 6 a.m. until 10 that night, which is just insane. Plus working the 4 other days. And guess what? I was sick the next week again. So he comes in my cube and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm still sick." He goes, "No job is worth your health." And that is the truest statement ever. And I think we all, everybody gets so wrapped up about money. And then money is the most, money is an important thing. It pays bills, it keeps us alive and everything else. But the amount of stress that money puts on us, and then you have the toxic job that, as a supervisor, how do you feel that somebody tells you, "Oh, well, you're only allowed to give," well, everybody can say, "We're going to give you a 3% raise," but you're not going to give anybody a 3% raise. This is what you're told when you're writing a review. So you're already setting up your employees who are looking for, "I've done this outstanding job." You're already going to say, "You're getting 1%.
That's awful.
But you have to put on a brave face and go, "Okay." It's just, it's toxic. It really is.
I think though, as you get older, and I feel like you also, obviously you decided this too, because you're not at the job anymore. I think we start to get more in alignment. I think a lot of our illnesses and stuff comes from the fact that we're in jobs or positions or running businesses that are not in alignment with who we want to be as people and like how we want to show up. And I feel like a lot of that, like when you're in that moment where you can't give someone that a raise and you know that this person's amazing and you're like, this is just not fair. I don't think this is fair. Right. And at some point, I think we get to, it's like, I'm only here for so long. Like, do I really want to live? Do I want this to be my everyday? And like, I think most of us, we get to this. And I realized this when I was listening to your podcast, that was listening to the podcast earlier. It was, but I think this happened with everyone that I listened to, but specifically, I think it was it was Taylor, Taylor, who said that he had, he'd reached this moment in life where he was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And I feel like, I think this was the last one or the one before.
That was the one before.
It was the one before, where he was saying that he didn't necessarily want, he's like, I don't want to live like this. And I think for a lot of us, we get to that point where you're tired, you're sick, and you realize that not only are you sick, so I have fibro, right? Let's say, and then on top of that, you're adding this extra stress from work. So you can't actually even begin to heal yourself because you can't unravel all the things that are wrong at this moment. Right. So I think we get to a point where we're just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not living like this anymore. And you start to like eliminate things. And that happened for me in my, like when I hit 40, something changed inside me. And it was just like, I don't give a fuck. I just don't care anymore. I am going to die one day and I want to enjoy every minute of my life from now till the day I die. And I want to help other people enjoy every minute of their lives from now until the day they die. Right. That was like my big thing. That's when I think I was like, I really made the decision to not work for people or with people. And I actually ended up leaving a job, a client who was, it was significant, 6 figures. We're talking like 6 figures a month. I was like, I don't want to do this because it was not in alignment with how I wanted to live. That was hard. That was really hard to do that on principle.
So. I mean, go ahead.
No, I'm good. I was smart. I was smart about it, guys. I didn't just run away. I had a plan, right? But just like, don't just say, dude, in principle, I'm just going to toss this on the floor and burn it. Just for anybody listening. I don't want you to think like you just burn everything and walk away. No scorched earth here.
Yeah. Don't burn the bitch down. Sorry.
Yeah, don't do that.
Taylor's the person who was talking about the wording of feelings.
Yes.
That's who was talking about that. And I was trying to remember his name and I couldn't. The other thing about my job that I realized, so during my tenure as an adjuster, I had to judge people on their bodily injury, on their pain and suffering.
Oh my God.
Now, during this time, after I became claim supervisor and whatnot, I fell and I hurt my back. And it was in that moment, speaking of alignment, that as I'm doing my job, I come to a realization. It's like, what gives me the right to judge anybody's pain? What gives me that right? And that's what that job is. You're sitting there looking through medical bills. You're sitting there looking at what they went through, and you're supposed to put a dollar figure on that. And that is toxic in itself, because what gives you that right?
That
So
is intense. Like I just, as you say that, like as you're saying it, I'm like, yes, of course that's what you guys did. And then I don't think I've ever really thought about it. Like you're saying it and I'm like, I feel like I really internalized what it is that you guys did.
well,
And I'm
and
like,
the worst thing is I'm an empath. So there were times when I was talking to people that I could pick up on their emotions, and it was not easy. It was not easy to listen to somebody's story about how horrendous an accident was. You're not trained for that. They don't give you any emotional support to talk to somebody about, hey, yeah, you got to get the facts. And like same thing with a police officer. You have to get the facts of the accident. And in some cases, I have a guy who swerved out of the way of a snowplow, and the snowplow took out the passenger side of his car and killed his daughter. And that was my first death claim.
oh my God.
Nobody's trained me for this. So you end up, so when I look at my body and the inflammation markers and everything I have, it's like, it's a lot to do with just how I've lived my life. And the fact of the matter is, and I know this is true for you, people will look at you and say, well, you look perfectly fine.
You don't look sick.
I have a handicap placard and I use it. And I mean, I shouldn't be announcing that, but I do. But I know I get looks in the parking lot like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't understand. If I would go walk, and I use a scooter in the store because I will end up seizing up in pain. So, but you're going to judge me. So go for it.
I've had friends get judged like you don't look sick. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure I'm just going to give a PSA out to anybody listening. Don't ever say to somebody, but you don't look sick. Just don't say it. It doesn't make anybody feel better. It's like, well, gee, thanks. I'm glad, but I feel terrible. I think honestly, the best thing that I want to hear is, dude, it must blow to feel so sick and look so good. It's like,
yeah.
Like that. Okay. That I'm like, yeah, but it absolutely does. It does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they struggle with that too, where they don't actually use the placard because they're afraid. This is where we're at right now. They are afraid to use the placard that they need because they don't look sick. And they're afraid because, one of them was actually, somebody came up to them in the parking lot and said, why are you using this? And then they literally had to justify why they were using it. I'm like, how? Like it's almost like you're getting attacked again. It's like, you shouldn't have to justify that kind of thing. So absolutely. I think it's tough.
And that's the thing. You don't know what's going on with the person that has that placard. If they have that placard, 10 to 1, there's a reason for it. I mean, people would sit there and think, oh, well, it's for your husband. No, it wasn't for my husband. Granted, he could have gotten one, but it was for me. And if my doctors deem that, then they deem that. So, but it's amazing how people will not look at invisible illness as a real thing. They just look at the book cover, as I have talked about, and don't read the blurb. They have no knowledge of who you really are, but we're going to judge you.
Yeah.
And we're taught to be like that from a young age.
When I think back, actually, it's interesting because when I look back to my childhood, so I grew up in Pakistan and my mom had really bad migraines growing up, and this was in the 80s. And she's been gone now for 16 years. She died of liver cancer years and years ago, but it was a tough time, but it's, how it is. But so my dad tells me about the time when she was sick, and I remember it vividly because obviously I was there. But my sister and I really had to take care of ourselves a lot because she was so ill. But it was a time of life where no one understood chronic illness like at all, like in any way, shape, or form, and migraines at all either. And so what they would do in those days was, well, you're sick, here, have an opiate, right? So they give you an opiate. So they gave her a ton of opiates. So my mom was just always on something for her pain, right? And as a result, I didn't understand this as a child, but as an adult now, I can look back and see the kind of impact it had on her, where, she was sleeping 9 to 10 hours a day, and then at night as well, she was barely ever up. She was always in pain. And then of course, if you're on opiates all the time, you have withdrawal. Now you just have to be on the opiates all the time. It was a really, really challenging time. And I watched that. And then when we came to the States for a brief period of time for about 3 months. And we were living in Pakistan. We moved here for 3 months in 1988. And my mom got a job at Walden Books. And she couldn't keep the job at Walden Books because she was so sick and it was so hard for her. And so you and I grew up in that same time period, right? Where those were the belief systems that we had. And I think that over the last, and this is, I think, so interesting. I think you and I have talked about this a while back, that we have grown over the last 30 years. The world has changed. Dinosaurs, fun fact, no longer lizards, now they're birds, but we still have not changed our perspective on chronic illness and what we believe about ourselves. We're still holding on to that 1980s belief.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, so I think we bring a lot of that with us, but I think what the problem is that we do not intentionally, we think it's self-indulgent or because like when you're young, you're supposed to be seen but not heard. You're supposed to be humble, don't think too much of yourself, that kind of thing. So as adults, right, we're here, and if we spend, like, self-care, bad word. And when we think of self-care, we think of self-care like, pedicures and manicures, but what we don't think about is intentionally reflecting upon how you approach yourself and the things that you say to yourself and your belief systems, and challenging some of those. And we don't often challenge our belief systems. And that is part of the problem, because we brought our belief system from the 1980s. Well, you know what? In the 1980s, we were all smoking, and you were not cool if you didn't smoke. Well, we've learned since then that that's not good for you.
I didn't smoke.
What? You were so uncool. Well, oh my God.
Well, yeah, I was at a man's goody two shoe songs occasionally. I mean, when I went to a bar, when I got a little older, I would smoke, but I never smoked. I puffed, and it was just, I could have had candy cigarettes and it would have been good. Anyway, go ahead. We digress.
I can't believe this. You were one of the smart ones, dude. I smoked from the time I was 1992, because I was in Pakistan. You smoke from the time you're like 7, right? But I was, I think, 13 or 14. So I started smoking then, and I smoked for about 15. It's awful. Kids don't smoke. It's disgusting. But we've learned since then that it's bad for you. We've also learned, and I think, honestly, I think there's a great awakening happening in the last 5 years or so of so many women realizing what we've all been dealing with. Because I don't know if you're noticing, there's a real huge number of women right now all talking about this same thing. I think we're all tired of feeling this way, and we're being more intentional about how we talk to ourselves and how we approach ourselves so that we can heal. Because before this, I don't think we were even giving ourselves the opportunity to heal. And the issue, and I know I'm like going on forever, but is also that we don't give ourselves the opportunity, because you go to the doctor and they ignore you, and they're like, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. And it's exhausting to advocate for yourself. But I think that one of the things that's happening now is that there are communities developing around these ideas to where we can force the issue. We can make these conversations happen, which I think is really, really important.
Yeah. And I mean, there's two things that I want to touch on or play off of what you said. The medical community looks at thyroid and they go, oh, well, it's in normal parameters. That doesn't mean, it took me getting in a car accident, going to an acupuncturist, her pulling all my blood work to be diagnosed with a thyroid issue.
Dude, thyroid issues are really, like, they do not do enough to diagnose them. No. You were like the 4th person I've heard this from.
And I went like 8 years with having all these symptoms, and I would go to my doctor. He's like, well, your thyroid's normal, everything's fine. It's like, you're fine. No. And so finally, when I brought the paperwork to him, he's like, well, how'd you find this out? Really? That's your takeaway here, is how did I find this out? Gee, thanks. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the opioid crisis. In a way, the opioid crisis, actually, it was a saving grace, because, okay, my dad, he was addicted to Percocet because of back problems. So after I leave my job and I'm having the chronic pain, I get sent to a pain management doctor. You know how that goes. Go to a pain management doctor. Okay. So they're like, we want you to take, I think, 2 or 3 Flexeril a day. We want you to take Vicodin 2 or 3 times a day. And I'm very highly susceptible. I could take 1 Flexeril and it will stay in my system for 2 days. I will be hungover for 2 days. I have always been very low tolerant. So I looked at my husband and it's like, okay, I have to make a choice. I can choose to be bombed out of my head. Same thing with my sleep doctor. It's like, he did a sleep study. He's like, your mind never shuts down. You're always going. So I'm going to give you this medication. It's going to keep you awake. I said, what about going to sleep at night? Oh, well, then I'll give you this medication to go to sleep. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm taking uppers and downers. No. So back to the pain management. It's like, okay, so I have to make a choice, quantity over quality. Sure, I can live in pain. And granted, that messes with your head, but I can live in pain, or I can choose to be bombed out of my mind. and drool and not have a life at all. So what is better? So I deal with, I will tolerate pain. I will take painkillers if I have to, but I'm not going to get addicted. And that was the choice I made, because they were giving, when we got in our car accident, they gave my husband, like 300 pills of Flexeril. And like we go to the pharmacy and he checks out and there's like 3 containers of Vicodin.
Oh my God.
And he's like, I mean, he never used all of it, but it was just kind of like, how, why do we have an opioid crisis? Because they were handing it out like candy.
Yeah. That's honestly the solution to everything is here, have some drugs.
Right. Oh, you have a mental problem? Here, have some drugs. Don't worry about therapy. Don't worry about getting to the root of it.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say I'm a big believer in taking drugs, but I think there's also a problem with, like, I think there's the two, I think you and I just want to say it's just because I like to be clear, is that this, I think, is an issue more of people using drugs to mask a problem as opposed to using drugs to actually solve a problem. Like,
yes.
I think it's a real big difference. Like, for example, I think if you're using drugs to mask the problem, it's no different from using alcohol. So for me, when I couldn't get help that I needed, I just drank. I drank a lot. I was the most functioning drinker. Oh my God, I could drink a lot. So functioning and very able to accomplish insane amounts. And I think to myself, if I had actually been cared for properly and like had proper health care, wow, imagine what I could have accomplished without all of the alcohol. Well, I probably kept Svedka in business for like 10 years.
and I'm not saying that, medication is bad. I'm not saying that. If you need, Effexor, you need Prozac, you need whatever, Zoloft, then take that. But work on the real problem too. I mean, my husband was not a man for therapy. He knew I was in therapy. He was okay with that. He understood that. And his mom had gotten sick and his dad was okay. And I'm like, he would come to therapy and sit in the car. I'm like, look,
you're here anyway.
Well, exactly. I'm like, come with me. You really, because I knew because he had siblings. I'm like, once his parents take ill, he's sick. He has this thing that he knows he's going to die eventually because of his illness. So he needs some help. And I know he needs some help. He's on Effexor. So I'm like, you need to come with me. No. I said, come with me. Like the 4th time I asked him, he's like, buy me a fish sandwich and I'll go. Okay. All right. So I bought him a fish sandwich. And the thing is, when all was said and done, his parents passed, went through the whole gamut of that. He said, he looked at me and he looked at my therapist. He's like, that was the best thing I could have done, was to get help.
Nice. So he saw a therapist after that?
He saw my therapist.
That's amazing. Still, oh my God, how wonderful.
But yeah, I mean, but I will say, when near the end, he quit because we were doing it via phone. He quit participating, but he already knew at this point that his days were numbered. Mm-hmm. And so he had taken a death and dying class in his 20s. So he was kind of already in his own mindset and I wasn't going to force him.
Right. So. Like it's at that point, you're sort of like a different state, in a different position. I want to actually, so therapy, I want to touch on that. Like therapy for me has changed my life. And I've been in therapy for 20 years off and on. It's not just like, it's not just a tool, I think, for me just to like heal, but it's also really, I use it as a great business tool. Like there have been times where I've not had somebody to talk to about with my therapist. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this project I'm working on. Let's talk about this course that I want to create. And like, she'll work with me on my target audience. And like, my therapist has become almost like, and I change therapists once every 5 or 6 years, but I want to just open this up to all of your listeners. So I have a thread on my personal profile that you're welcome to go look at. I'm in Massachusetts and finding a therapist right now is like really, really hard. It's like so hard for people and they're really struggling. So what I've done is I'm just reaching out to people that I know who are therapists who are taking clients and I'm just putting their information up there and being like, so-and-so is taking clients if you're here. So if you're looking for a therapist and having trouble, just my personal profile. My name is Minessa. Just go, that thread is there and you can probably find a therapist there or just let me know where you're at and I'll see if I can find a therapist for you, like who is still taking clients.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's therapy. The first time I saw a therapist when I was 9 after my parents split. So I've been in and out of therapy for 40 years.
Therapy's the best, dude. I love it.
Well, it helps you reframe things. And I mean, sometimes you think you've gotten past something and then, ultimately it's come back to rear its head. And that's what people don't think about emotions. It's an addiction. We get used to certain ways we live and nobody ever sees it that way. They're just like, oh, well, no, it's just like an addiction. It's like putting on that comfy sweater. Somebody's abusive to you, you're used to it. And it's like, oh, okay. This friend, I feel like I've known you forever. Oh, well, maybe there's a reason why. Sometimes it's a good thing, but sometimes it's just like, no.
Old habits coming back to roost.
Yeah. Old habits die hard, don't they say?
They do. Oh my God. The way I like to think of it is a tributary. So like we spend our whole lives being a certain way. If you think of your brain and your life as like just a river, right? We spend our whole lives being a certain way. And that abusive thing is like one tributary that spent 30 years building. So it's a deep rooted tributary and you can build the new one, but you're still going to kind of drift back to that one that's already deep and etched in stone. And I think for me, one of the, like I said this the other day to somebody, I said, oh my God, can I just stop with the self-development work? I'm so tired and so done, and I know you felt that at some point where she's like, oh my God, I'm so tired of working on myself. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that, like you said, I think, who was it? Oh my God, who was it that you were talking about the other day? Was talking about fear. It was one of the podcasts just talking about fear. I think it was Sharon. She was talking about, Sharon Valenti was talking about fear and working through those fears. That's really the key. I think I lost my train of thought when I was trying to remember Sharon's name. I was like, wait, Sharon, what was I saying right before that about?
You were talking about self-development, that you get tired of working on yourself.
Right. You get tired of working on yourself because there's always something to work on. But I think the thing that happens is you actually get comfortable with understanding. Oh no, this was also Trevor. And you get comfortable with the discomfort. You recognize that being a business owner, having a chronic illness, these kinds of things are uncomfortable. But you get to a point, I think, with acceptance where it's like the discomfort doesn't feel bad anymore. It feels energizing in a way that's like, because I think initially when you start working on yourself, everything feels so scary. But then after you've really worked on yourself for a while, the new things you discover are more like, oh my God, look at this cool, fun thing that I've discovered that's an opportunity for healing. So I'm going to feel better in like a month or 2 months rather than, oh my God, something else is broken with me. It really does, I think, change your perspective. So I think it helps to like recognize that you're never fully quote unquote healed. You're never going to be over it. You're going to find these things like my relationship with my dad. It keeps rearing its ugly head, because we've got 44 years of freaking baggage. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, how many times will you hear somebody say, oh, well, you just got to get over it. Well, you know what? If I don't, I don't. Screw yourself.
No, I don't.
But there's something I want to touch on because you were talking about fear. There's a guest, I don't know the exact air date yet, but I had recorded the interview the other day, Kim Cortez, she talks about, we were talking about fear. And she says, fear basically is a stop sign. And this is how we get balled up. We get all trapped because fear is just this big warning. And we've been taught to be fear-based. But if we proceed with caution, as we're making changes, it's not so daunting. Instead of just going from A to Z. If you're going from A to Z, yeah, it's going to be scary because you're not taking any small steps.
Yep.
You have the pedal to the metal, and guess what? There's a brick wall right there, at least in your mind, because that's how you've been trained. Because how many times has somebody said, oh, you can't do that. If you do that, you're just going to screw yourself.
Yeah. Oh my God. Totally.
So, I mean, it was an interesting conversation and I look forward when I share it, but because it's true, because we sit there and we look at the big picture that I want to get all this done. But when you start to do it, you look and go, oh my gosh, I can't get all of this done. Especially with a chronic illness.
Oh, dude, I have the best system for this. Like, this is actually, it's almost like you knew what I offer. I'm just saying. So I actually have this great, it's a free system. It's you can just get it at hustleproofyourlife.com. But I a few years ago, I realized what you're saying. And I realized that I was not making any progress in the way that I was approaching my business because I was doing things like saying, and most business owners do this, will say things like, I need to set up my email, right? I need to set up my email. Setting up your email is 30 individual steps. And that's actually literally 30. I know because I broke them out into the steps and I actually have like every single thing you need to do, from researching it, identifying the software you want to use, buying the software, setting it up, every single little step you have to take, right? So when you sit down to do, you're like, okay, this is my to-do list. And you're like, do email. that is, you don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. When you just say do email, I don't know what that is. That's like so many other tasks. And so what my system does is it actually breaks your to-do list down into 3 separate lists. So you have your first list, which is your dream list, which is everything that you want to work on that is going to be a month or more in the future, or something that you just keep moving from day to day to day that you haven't yet done. Just put it on the dream list. That becomes the list that you look at once a month, because that's more your growth and progress list. It's good for when you hit a wall. Then you have a triage list. And on your triage list goes everything that you think about that you need to do whenever you think about it. So you just keep adding things to it electronically, but that's not your master to-do list. And then you have your to-do list that you own, that you put together at the beginning of the week, but that just becomes what you're doing. It's very intentional. It's very thought out, so that now if something happens during the week that you're like, oh, I need to do this thing, it ends up on the triage list so you can prioritize it appropriately. And what that does is it actually allows you to slow down, because instead of then jumping on everything the second it comes up, you start to give yourself time between tasks, which then gives you time to think about what tasks actually take. It's because you're now sitting down and really you have taken out time for yourself to decide what you're going to do in the week. Like, okay, now I'm going to look at the triage list and pick, these are the things I'm going to do this week. Right. So which is very different from the way we tend to approach it, which is usually like, oh, I have a lot of things to do. Let me grab this notebook or this receipt or this envelope and just write all the things that I need to do. And now you have a long forever list that you need to do. And your brain looks at it and says, fuck this, I'm not doing any of it. Right. It's like, nope, not doing that. So the system that you get Hustle Proof Your Life, what that's going to allow you to do is break apart your list into smaller pieces so that you don't feel quite so overwhelmed with all the things that you need to do all the time.
And I think that we were taught, here's the caveat. Let's go back to the 80s for a second. Yes. If you had to do a research paper, you had to go to the library. You had to do a microfiche. You didn't have this instant. I love the internet. As a writer, I love the internet, but I still go and investigate with real books. But especially because some of the stuff I do right in the 80s, so I have to go back to that. But we were taught that you have to take time, you have to do this, you have to research it, you have to plod, you can't take a break, you have to keep going. But the problem is now our lives are like on crack, comparatively speaking, to the 80s. So it's like you start to do something and, oh, wait, the phone binged. I gotta do that now. Wait a second, I gotta go over here. And when do you stop? When do you stop and look at, like you said, the priorities, what needs to be done right now? And I can take one of my guests, and a couple of guests actually have talked about, instead of taking the big project on head on, taking small bites.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't taught to take small bites. We were taught to excel. You needed to excel. You need to be on top of your game. And that's what's important. But we can't live like that anymore. We can't.
It reminds me of something when you talk about that. Because we can't live like that anymore, because like you said, it's nonstop, like it will never end. And did you watch Aliens, the second one with
I'm pretty sure I did. I don't like scary things.
And Aliens is really scary.
Yeah, I've seen it because my husband liked it, but I'm sure I've watched it. But
so there's this scene in it where they're in the car, they're in this armored vehicle, and she's ridden over one of the aliens with his acid stuff. And then the acid came out and it eats up all of the rubber on the wheel. Right. So now she's trying to go into the so fast, but the wheels are turning and it's smoking. And the guy says, Ripley, stop. You're just grinding metal now. You're not moving in. You're not actually making any headway. That's what happens to us, is we start grinding metal and it doesn't actually. And so whenever I have that visual in my head, so anybody listening to this now who've seen Aliens, now you'll never be able to get that vision out of your head. When you start to get to that point, that's your alert that it's time to that you are approaching something too quickly. You're just grinding metal. What I've discovered is that people who approach business that way are not making progress in their business. They're just doing a lot of stuff. And the thing is none of us gets into our business to just do a lot of stuff. We get into our business we're trying to build something in particular, but you can't build it without intention and time. And we think that if we hurry or if we speed it up, if we try to just create that sense of urgency, that will make it come faster. And I want to hear what you think about this, because I got to tell you, one of the most horrible, rude, obnoxious things I ever realized was that it doesn't matter how fast I want it to happen. It just doesn't matter. There's a pace that you have to do these things at. and the results will come, but you trying to do it faster isn't going to matter. It's just, that's actually going to take longer.
It's going to take longer. And a lot of the times you'll make errors with it. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. And dare I say, my mother would sit there and go, okay, you need to do this. And I would start doing it. And if I didn't do it quick enough, she would grab it and say, I'm going to do it. Okay. So that kind of sets you up to, you have to be at her level. And of course, if you make a mistake, that's a whole nother thing. But the thing is, if you're going quickly, you're doing something quickly, you're going to miss those steps. Something's going to happen to trip you up. So sometimes it's better, you know, somebody once told me, it's like, you don't want to be an overnight success. You want to do slow and steady.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Because you know what? There is an equal and opposite reaction to any action. So if you are an overnight success, shooting up, then that is going to be followed by a right. So what goes up must come down with that same speed and velocity.
Well, and you know, some overnight success aren't really overnight success. They work their asses off.
It's true. 25 years later.
But, you know, like if you become TikTok famous, that's an overnight success in modern day. But, you know, something that you talked about, and I've talked about this before about Britney Spears, we put Britney, you know, on this pedestal. We put her up there, and then we picked at her till she collapsed. And, you know, and everybody's going like, oh, no, I didn't. But
I did. And I was awful. I regret some of the stuff that I like. Honestly, I'm ashamed. I am ashamed. I said things, and I'm not that person anymore, but we got to own it, dude. We all said shit.
Mm-hmm. And we all wanted dare I say, a piece of her. Play off her song, but it's the truth. When you are a celebrity, people want a piece of you. And whether it be the audience or somebody else, I watched a bass player on stage sit there, and great band, and he screwed up, and they actually booed him. And he walked off stage, came back, started playing again, got the guitar screwed up again, and they booed him again. And he left. He did come back again, and he did get it straight, but it was like Viper Pit. They were like out for blood. And it's just like, look, if you were at your job and you had a screw up, you know,
you don't want to booing you.
Yeah. I mean, your boss is going to tell you stuff, but don't be an ass. But we do. And I mean, and it's funny because I don't know if you've seen it, but yes, we've had the Free Britney. But guess what? There are people now sitting there saying the same nasty stuff again. She's going to have a breakdown. She's going to be, you're doing it all over again. So
fortunately, I was just going to say, fortunately, this time I didn't even know people were doing that. I can't believe people would pick at her now. Yeah. Or pick at anyone now. Honestly, I feel like you said something earlier. You said, don't be an ass. And I think that what I learned about Britney, this whole Britney Spears thing, was be kinder. You don't know, like, I want to shave my head. Right. And so for years, I keep saying, every time I do it, I'm going to go full Britney Spears. And the other day I was about to say that, and I stopped because I was like, you know what? That's just unkind. Like, that was a very suffering person. And it's not even funny because it's not funny. It's just not funny. Right. And, so I think that like, we are in a world where I think we need to be kinder in that way, because you're absolutely right. We try to pick apart anybody who does anything, you pick them apart as quickly as humanly possible. And I think a lot of that has to do with deflection. You don't want to look at yourself, and it's just so much easier to pick apart somebody who's up there, you know? Oh,
I agree. And I'm going to say this right now. You have Will Smith's book back there. Will has been a big target lately.
Oh, because of him talking so much about them and Jada. I love that. I love that they're talking so openly right now. I love this man.
I mean, why can't we be honest about things? Why do we have to keep it all bottled up? If their relationship works and it's an open relationship, if they're what does it fucking matter? You know, it's their life.
You know what I love about it? Actually, here's what I love about Will Smith in particular and this book. I was surprised to find that. Have you read it yet?
No.
Okay. Here's the thing. It is so relatable. I relate to Will Smith. Like, I was like, oh my God, I really relate to that. Like, and I think a lot of people will. And that's what I thought was really great about it, is that I think that, we were talking earlier about therapy and how some people don't do therapy. Right. And I think that he's clearly gone on a journey in the last few years, and he has clearly done a lot of work. Like, you can tell the kind of work he's done just by the way he talks. Mm-hmm. Right. And the fact that Jada has the Red Table talk show, which I think is amazing. and that he's doing this, they are really showing, like really giving you a complete insight look into what could it look like to have a healthy relationship. What do some of these conversations look like? What does it look like when you're working through some of these things? Because I don't think a lot of us have really good role models, and we all have to figure it out ourselves. And I feel like it's really actually quite brave of him and Jada and their whole family to share and be this open and raw, because it's the blueprint that a lot of people don't have right now. I think everyone should read this book. Every business owner should read this book. I think it's a really important illustration about the things that we go through as business owners emotionally, and like the mistakes that we can make and how you can overcome them.
What's ridiculous, reason I brought it up though, is there was a petition recently
I
to get him to shut up. And it's like, really?
So I think it had 16,000 signatures last I checked.
I don't even know. Really, I think, okay, if it's not your thing, you don't have to read it. And this is the biggest thing about most of the internet. If it's something you don't like, then move on.
It's so true.
Move on. There was a show back, and I mentioned this before, called Good Christian Bitches. And it was, they called it GCB. It was a dramedy. It was about Texas Christian women who loved guns, and it was over the top camp. The Million Moms or whatever, I don't even think they watched it. Same thing with the Playboy Club, which was set in the 60s. They took it off the air because they had a petition.
Oh, yes.
Okay, number one, the Playboy Club, it was set in the 60s, so but there was no sex. It was more from crime drama. And Good Christian Bitches, well, they were just being over the top, but it offended their moral sensibilities. Well, screw you. Screw you. I'm sorry. Call me feisty, and I know some things we shouldn't have, but be a parent. If you're worried about your kids seeing it, be a parent.
You know who says Cardi B? I love that woman. Oh my God, Cardi B is amazing. She had that song WAP, right? And I think that somebody said to her, they said, do you want, this is not fit for children. She's like, yeah, I don't let my kids listen to it. She's like, that's your job.
Yeah.
She's like, it's for adults.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when the Hearts, All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You came on.
Oh, I was just thinking about that. I love that song.
Yeah. My youngest stepdaughter was about 7, and she's singing it in the car at the top of her lungs. And I lowered the volume and I said, don't ever sing this in front of your grandmother, please. And that's tame compared to some of the stuff today, but be a parent. I mean, you have to be a parent. The problem is, and I know people can come at me and that's fine, but you have to take some ownership of what your kids are watching, and don't say, oh, it's Disney, it's okay.
Disney's got some serious problems too. A lot of my issues mentally come from Disney.
Oh, you mean did you want to marry a Disney prince?
Who I really wanted to marry was Judd Nelson from, I didn't want to marry him. I wanted to sleep with him. Judd Nelson from The Breakfast Club. Yeah. I was very whorish as a kid. Like even like from the earliest age, I just wanted to sleep with everybody. So that was really more along the direction that I was going in.
But why does that make you a whore? I mean, I hate to say, I'm going to just put this out there.
That's actually a really good point.
We were raised to believe that if you're a girl and you were sleeping around, you're a whore. But a boy doing it, well, that's just a guy being a guy.
Stud, look at you.
Yeah, I mean, what? Because we can get knocked up? I mean, it's the same damn thing.
It's funny you should say that. It's actually, I never questioned it. I never questioned using that term until cause I've always said obviously I've been married for years and me and my husband, but before that, actually we had the question once. I asked him, I said, which of us do you think was the bigger slut when we were younger? He goes, probably you. And I'm like, yeah, I know, probably me. But that's why, was it Amber? Oh my God, Amber. I can't remember her last name, Amber, but she's amazing. And Amber Rose, she does the slut walk. I think she hasn't done it since COVID, but I love that. I think I use the word because it's the only way to describe it, but I think it's really, I'm glad you called me out on it. So I'm going to need to think on it. But I do like the idea of reclaiming that word and just being like, cause I'm, pro ho.
It's nothing. It's one of those things. It's like our words, we go back to what we were talking about earlier. Words matter.
They really do.
I mean, when somebody says, and I'm going to say the word, when somebody says fag, I think of a cigarette from England now. I don't think of the derogatory term.
You know what's when I was in my 20s, I can't say the word. I can't actually say it.
I apologize then.
I will be really honest with you. When I hear it, it hurt me to hear the word, which is so like, I understand that you were saying it to make a point. So I totally get it. But when I grew up in Pakistan, so that is what they called that is what you called cigarettes. And then when I was in the States in the 90s, they had a term for girls who hung around with a lot of gay guys. It was called an F-hag, right? And so that's what all my friends called me for years. And there was about a 3-year period where I went through and had to, and really like worked through like not using that word anymore. Why do I like, because the world was changing and I didn't understand how something that was okay before was not okay now and that kind of, so I had to go through like a whole process. But words matter because like you just said, right? You said the word meaning the cigarette because you think of the cigarette because you spent a lot of time in overseas in London. But if somebody hasn't spent a lot of time overseas in London, the word itself, right? We just illustrated it. It has the physical impact.
Right.
And I think that's also important is the knowledge that for not just that word, any word, right? Is that people can say words that will have a physical impact and like, jolt the cortisol into your system, but you may not know that happened, right? So I say a word and you're suddenly triggered in some way.
Right.
And I think that's words matter.
Yeah. And I do apologize. And no, it's not so much that I've never been to London, but I write a lot.
I thought you said you were in London. I misunderstood then. My bad.
I write and do research about London.
London. That's what it was. My bad.
And I have the London coffee mug, but
I created a whole life for you, by the way, in London.
I would like to go to London. And I bought my passport last year because I was going to go to London. And yeah, I have not gone to London. So.
Well, I mean, the traveling right now is probably, I actually have been thinking about going to India. I've been really into getting more in touch with my roots. And like, I've been working with my therapist a lot on my race and that kind of thing. And so I want to go to India, but I'm like, probably not going to happen for a couple of years. But dude, as soon as we're able to travel again, London, India, we should just start traveling, dude.
and I do apologize. It did not mean anything bad.
I know. You know what? I was wondering, I was like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't feel bad. It was just like, I mean, we both can agree that the word used in derogatory terms against someone who is homosexual is disgusting. We both agree on that.
Yeah. I mean,
but as a cigarette, I imagine that that is a transition they had to go through as well. Is like, how do we do that? And I don't know if everybody's made that transition. Maybe some more people are still using it.
And I mean, the other word that is questionable is it's in Christmas songs. It's in the Flintstones, and that's gay. I mean,
is that a word that people don't use?
It's been used as a derogatory slang occasionally, but I mean, we'll have a gay old time.
Oh yes, like that. Yeah. I wanted to spend some time learning about that. And I have not done that yet, but now you've reminded me that that's something I want to spend some time on.
But here's another big thing. And I don't know if you were over here because it was the early 80s before the AIDS epidemic. So it was the late 70s, early 80s. We had a diet candy called AIDS.
You did not, really?
Yes, we did. AIDS, and they're ads, and you can look at. There's an ad that says "Lose weight now with AIDS."
Oh my God,
it's bad. It's bad.
Holy shit! True. I had no idea.
Yes.
Whoa, that is like some serious, like fucked up irony, but like really morbid humor there. Like I'm really into dark humor. So on one hand, I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking bad, dark, hysterical. But on the other hand, I'm horrified. So I'm like, I've got both of those things happening at the same time right now.
I remember growing up because my mom was in diet culture. And they would advertise the candy all the time. So wow. I remember, and then, all of a sudden, but then again, we have ISIS, we have the goddess ISIS, but then now we put it to a militant group, which really pisses me off.
Very annoying.
It's just, how do these words how do they change? Let's go with the word fuck, fornication under consent of king. But yet it's a really dirty word. But at one time it wasn't.
I could actually talk about this for like ever, because one of the things that I studied when I was an archaeologist for a while. And when I was doing anthropology, one of the things that we studied, and I found this really interesting, was the appropriation of words by colonists and then like the reclaiming of words by marginalized people, and how like words, they have a life cycle, they have a cycle, right? Where it belongs to one community, then another community often will steal it, appropriate it, do something with it. And then the marginalized community will take it back and reclaim the word. And so I think that like I could tell, I would love those kinds of conversations. I mean, we want to start for like an hour. We could do another like 2-hour conversation on that.
That would be fascinating because it's always something that, it's always amazed me. It's like, well, how is it a bad word? It's in the dictionary. And why did it become a bad word? I mean, it's something that's always just ate at me because it's like, well, you can't say that. Why not? Why? Because it's not proper? Because it's not ladylike?
My thing was always, I don't care what's proper. So another thing that always bothered me was not being able to wear jeans at work. I'm like, why? Why can't I wear jeans at work? Why can't I have blue hair at work? Why can't I have tattoos at work? Like, I am still amazing at my job either way. Like, what do any of these things matter? What does it matter if I swear? I didn't get a job once because I was told that I lacked gravitas to get the promotion to that higher level. And I was like, I am literally one of the best people that you have. And that was the moment where I realized that that something big was about to happen in my life and that I wanted to be this way. It took me 8 years to change into this person here that I was like, I know the direction I want to go in, because I realized that if I wanted to stay in corporate, I would have to change. I would have to become something I didn't want to become, because like you were just saying, there are arbitrary rules about things that are proper things. Fun fact, everybody, all rules are made up. Somebody made them up. This is not fuck being a bad word is not written in the cosmos.
No. No. Well, it's funny because my mom would never say it. And
oh, really?
Then my mom got a job as a guard at a juvenile detention center my senior year in high school. I have never heard my mother say fuck more than anything in the world. It's like all of a sudden one day she comes home and she uses it. I'm just like, what? Where'd that come from? It's like, goddamn fucking kids. Whoa. Okay.
Language.
I'm kind of surprised by this, but okay. I mean, I'll be honest. I've been cursing since 8th grade. I was a Lutheran girl I went to a Lutheran school, but we were cursing. But when I was waiting for the bus across from the public school, there was like a kindergartner outside, kindergarten first grader cursing his ass off. And I'm just like, wow, my mom would have like killed me if my mouth would have been that bad that soon.
Did your mom wash your mouth out with soap?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, gross. My mom used sandalwood soap. It was awful. Ugh. I like the smell of sandalwood, but not after that. No. My mom swore like a freaking truck driver. I learned all my swear words from her, and I was like, by the time I was 5, I knew all of them. So one time my uncle wouldn't let me go and stay the night at my cousin's house. So on big chalk letters, I wrote, my uncle is a bastard. I wrote it like on big chalk letters, and then I went to bed. Yeah, I got a big spanking when my dad came home. And I know we don't spank anymore, whatever, but dude, I deserved it. I totally did.
I mean, back then that you
that was
got spanked or kneeled in a corner, which was always good for your knees.
Yep.
The first time I ever got busted for saying fuck was I took my grandmother to this warehouse in Shreveport called Libby Glass. And we're at the stoplight. This car is in front of me. The driver gets out and leaves the car and gets in somebody else's car. And I'm like, fuck. And my grandmother looks at me, she goes, what did you just say? And I'm like, because she never really heard me curse. So it was just kind of like, nah, nothing. And to preface this, Rick Springfield had a movie out in 1984 called Hard to Hold. And the rumor was you could see his naked ass. So yeah, I conned my grandmother. This is how cool my grandmother was. So I'm like, Grandma, I want to go see this movie. Well, why? I said, she goes, well, buy a ticket. I'm like, I can't, I need you. Okay, we'll go. Dawn, you should not have taken me to see that. Well,
Oh, well. Rick Springfield. Oh my God. He be still my beating heart. He was another one of those on my list of guys that I was like, oh, love you. I had a long list of rock stars in the 80s I was going to sleep with. I would have been the best groupie ever. When I moved to the States, I went and bought like Pamela DeBar's biography. I've read like all of the groupie biographies because I'm like, man, I would have been the best groupie. The best.
The experience I had with Rick Springfield is they played Hirsch. Me and my friend got there. My mom made us hot chocolate. I had this Doctor Who type scarf that one of my friends from New Orleans had made me. Her mom made it for me. And so we waited outside and we walked around the venue. Nobody had lined up. It was general admission. And the doors were open, the side doors. So we went in. We could have just stayed in. We should have just stayed in, but being the good girl. So we were watching them set the stage up and everything. And then it's like, oh, we better get out of here before we get in trouble. So we went back and we were waiting in line like good people and getting almost crushed. And so we finally make it in. We get front row and I put my scarf over the little wall with my coat. I go to get a t-shirt and they rush the stage because the show starts. So I finally get back to my friend. My scarf is gone. My jacket's there. I grab my jacket. We're getting crushed. We get out of the crowd. We go sit up top in the bleachers and I'm watching. And all of a sudden I see somebody throw my scarf onto the stage. Rick Springfield holds it up, wipes his face and throws it in the crowd.
Oh my God, how amazing.
My scarf. Yeah, it was a really cool scarf too. And I was just like, damn.
Oh, damn, I want my scarf back.
Yeah, I know.
Sweat on it.
It was just like, damn. So yeah, that was the Rick Springfield. And then I realized I'm like, Mom, why couldn't you marry him? At least he would have been a better stepfather. I could at least looked at him. Not that I want to lust after my stepdad, and he hasn't aged badly.
He's aged really well. Did you watch him in Supernatural?
No, I did not.
He played Lucifer in Supernatural, and I was so excited because my husband didn't know who he was, and I was like, oh my God, it's Rick Springfield. And he's aged really well. His hair is nice and long. He's got that he always had a John Taylory kind of look to him. And now with his hair long, he's like, the dark, oh my God, the dark eyes, the dark hair. But yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry, what? I'll be in my bunk. But yeah, I know he looks really great. I find, it's interesting because I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, obviously I thought I liked guys who were like younger in those days. And I remember saying to my sister, my mother, oh my God, when I'm older, I thought I would still like younger looking men when I was older. And I was like, it's going to be so weird when I'm like super old, like 50 and still like these, these young, yeah. I didn't realize I was going to like them as they get older. But I got to say, a lot of those guys are aging super well. Like Mark Harmon. Oh my God. John Taylor. Like these guys all look amazing.
John Bon Jovi.
I want to look that good when I'm their age. And it's considering all the drugs they did. That yeah. I want to look at.
Well, look at Keith Richards. All things considered, he's aging pretty well. He's been preserved quite well.
Dude, I think there's like a threshold. Either you have to do a whole lot so it kind of preserves you. You just got it all in your system, or you just got to be healthy.
But then there's Paul McCartney, and I'm not sure that he has aged as well.
He has not aged as well. No.
I have to. Did you ever watch Craig Ferguson when he had a late night talk show?
Yes.
And he used to have the picture of Angela Lansbury and the picture of Paul McCartney, and he would say they were kind of the same. Which is bad. Sorry, it's a joke, folks. I'm not judging. It's just one of those things where it's like,
I could see it. The two of them, I could definitely see that. Definitely for sure. Oh my God, I totally forgot. You know who I meant to tell you this after our last call. The guy that I thought aged super well, because I was trying to remember of the people, because like we've been talking about, people that we'd met and so on and so forth. And I remember my favorite meeting ever was with Peter Wolf, lead singer of the J. Giles Band. Okay. He said I was going to be the future ex Mrs. Wolf. Like I met him for like 10 minutes, but he's so charming. And he was like, he was already like super old when I met him. Right. And the man jumped on, like, still, you know how he, like, in all the music videos, he jumped on things and did all those crazy. Yeah. He was doing that at like 70 something. He jumps on the bar and he's dancing. And I'm like, you know what? I love you now as much as I loved you when I was like 18. And I don't care that you're 70. I fucking love you right now. Best day ever.
That's pretty wild. But hey, kudos to him for being able to do that stuff.
I know, right?
I remember my friends talking about meeting Weird Al. They had gone to see the Monkees on tour, and Weird Al rode the escalator by jumping on the railing.
Huh.
Like
he's actually that strange.
Yes, he is.
This was being able to get up on the railing.
Well, this was the late 80s.
Fair.
I'm not sure he could still do that.
He'll still do it.
He would try at least, but I'm not sure he could still do it. It's funny because there's a meme going around about if you ever think you could do something, look at Trent Reznor from back in his like first promo pic, and he looks like he's in a boy band.
Oh my God.
I'll have to find and send it to you because it's too funny. It's just like you picture Trent Reznor as dark and brooding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He looks like he's in a freaking boy band.
That's my husband and I were just listening to Sin. And because we were putting together our top 20 songs of the 80s, and he picked Terrible Lie from that album. I picked Sin.
That's a good song.
It's such a good song. It was I
only didn't pick it.
Oh, it was so good, right? But when you look at him now, right? And I remember looking at him back then and being like totally into him. And I look at him now and I'm like, oh my God, he's just a dude who's a dad. Like he's just a normal dude dad. Like it's really weird. And when I listen to the music and now I think to myself, why was I so angry? Like I was so angry, but I'm not that angry anymore. Like I was so mad, but I'm not angry. And I think to myself, I wonder like if he gets on stage and he's like, dude, I'm just not that mad anymore.
Henry Rollins, same thing. Henry Rollins is always angry.
Absolutely.
And then you got to think about, okay, well, think about some of your rappers. I mean, they've been angry too. So does it still translate, or are you just kind of,
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, are you just like, dude, I'm fine. I'm just not that upset anymore. Like, what kind of music do you make then?
I don't know. I mean, it's weird because you kind of evolve as an artist, and how do you sing the heartbreak song when you're in a happy relationship?
Right, exactly. Like, oh my God, you left me. It's like, no, you're right here and I love you. So and we're happy.
And how are you still writing country songs when you're happily married? Because 75% are about losing your truck, your wife, or your dog.
Dude.
So anyway, we are digressing. So is there anything that you would like to add that we have not covered?
Oh my gosh, we talked about like all of the things. This is like so much fun. I think the thing that I really want to add, and it's a reiteration. It's the reiteration that that if you, as a woman with chronic illness, or if you believe you have any other framework, that is, if you have a framework, anything other than like the typical white male framework, and you feel like you are starting at a deficit, I want to remind you that you are someone with years of experience. You're amazing. You're brilliant. You're intelligent. You have grit. The only thing that's holding you back is your belief right now in yourself. And through these kinds of podcasts and through surrounding yourself with people like Dawn and podcasts like this, and following me on Minessa.com, you will come to see in yourself the same joy and beauty that we see in you, and the same potential that we see in you. You have limitless potential. Do not let yourself, don't tell yourself a story otherwise. Whether you're sick or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You still have as much to offer. That is, for me, the most important thing. It hurts me that people feel like they are less than because they are sick or a different color or part of a different group. And so that's, like, I think the most important thing is just that there are people out there who believe in you, and people out there who will help you.
And then to piggyback onto that, don't live up to other people's expectations. The only expectations that matter are yours. So I hope
Hashtag fact.
Huh?
Hashtag fact, dude. That is like, absolutely. It's your expectations. That is like so brilliant. Like, who cares what other people want? It really doesn't matter. They don't have to live your life. But
the thing is, that is ingrained in us since we're a kid.
So much.
So
we look outside for validation like all the time. Look inside, inward.
Yeah.
Love that. That's really good.
So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This episode of the Better 2 podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. In the beginning, applause was his drug of choice. He felt so loved that he couldn't help but sample the buffet of women that were presented. It didn't matter that he had a wife or a daughter. His addictions became his life. When death came knocking, reality came crashing in. He thought he wanted a new reality, but did he really? My Days with the Dark Muse by DM Needham, available at online booksellers. Marissa and I had a great conversation, and she will be back. She is another one of those people that I've invited back to the show, and I think we can have even more fun. I apologize for anybody's feelings that I may have hurt by saying a certain word, and that's on me, and I did not say it maliciously, and I'm sure all of you guys understood that. But words do have power, and if we go back to what Taylor had, when we were talking about Taylor's episode, ownership of words can be a problem too for us, because the fact of the matter is, if we're sitting there talking about ownership and our vocabulary, then the situation becomes, well, I am, and why do you want to give words power? Why do you want to be angry? Why not just say you feel angry? I mean, you don't say I'm hungry. Well, you do, but you're giving that power. But if you say I feel hungry, it softens it. So maybe we should soften our words just a scotch so we're not taking it on and putting it into our body. So I hope you enjoy the show as always. Marissa's links are in the bio. And I think if you follow her plan, I'm definitely going to check this out before next episode that I talk to her, so I can see if I can implement her plan and her to-do list. All those notes are in the show notes. So check it out. If you have a question or would like to be a guest on the podcast, please send me an email at Donna, DAUNA, at better2podcast.com. That's Donna at better2podcast.com. If you want to leave a review, you can do so at Podchaser or applepodcast.com. As always, if you want to catch up on the episodes, if you're just tuning in, you just discovered the show, you can go to better2podcast.com, and all of the episodes are there, as well as all of our social links to follow. So I thank you for tuning in as always, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye. You are listening to the Better 2 Podcast with DM Needham.